Hey guys, my name is Deji. If you're new to this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much for joining. And if you're a returning viewer, I so much appreciate your support. Today we're gonna do a quick reaction to a comment made by Henry Shield about the Nigerian opposition, you know, parties and leaders. And let's see what he has to say. So without taking too much of your time, let's go straight into the video.
If we are the opposition, what do we have? We have an Atiku Abubakar who plays an elitist form of opposition, send his boys, release press statement, and engage the government once in a while in banters online. He's a comfortable man. He is in his prime. He understands that, okay, Jeje Layegba and everything. That is his kind of opposition, which is a failure. Then we have a Peter Obi, also as opposition, who by his countenance, by his nature, by his build, by his upbringing, is naturally a gentleman. Let us go to court. Let us do this one. We cannot afford to behave like them. So these two individuals leading the opposition race in Nigeria today makes it absolutely comfortable for Tinubu to misbehave. Comfortable for Tinubu. Peter Obi will never go and tell you, let's go and confront the government. No. He is by nature a gentleman, which is not a bad thing. But in Nigeria's current peculiar situation, we need firebrands like the El-Rufai, like the Adams Oshiomhole. We need men who will look at government in the face and tell them the truth to their face, damning all consequences. And I mean every form of consequence. Until we get that level of position, you will see fuel has gone back. I bought 1,330 naira 2 days ago. It's still going to go to 1.5, go to 1.8. Dollar is still going to climb and all the rest. The government is still going to keep suppressing, oppressing, intimidating, and bullying the opposition to the extent that the man wants to run against nobody in 2027. So you ask yourself, if you ask me, I will score Nigeria's current opposition 5/100.
Very strong words there by Henry Shield. 5/100 is pretty poor, very very poor. And to be honest, I kind of align with that submission. To be honest, I particularly don't think the Nigerian opposition, the leaders and the followers, I don't think they've done enough to actually put this government on its toes. So let's go through the few things that he mentioned and see how it goes, right? So he started by basically comparing both Atiku and Obi, sort of trying to examine their personalities. And he said Atiku is elitist, rarely speaks, rarely seen in public, discussing with Nigerians or regular Nigerians. There's a very big criticism of Atiku even floating out there that he acts like a president without necessarily being one, right? He doesn't grant press interviews, only occasionally. In fact, he recently actually granted one to Arise, and he does a few DW and BBC Hausa here and there. But obviously, you can't compare him with Peter Obi in terms of visibility, right? So that's that. He also talked about the fact that Atiku also uses his guys, right? His advisors, his media people to communicate, you know. So he himself doesn't really speak on these issues. There's probably a press statement from Frank Shuaibu or from there's this other guy, I've forgotten his name now, right? So these are the people that sort of release statements on his behalf. Doesn't really speak on issues. with this PFI PC scandal, right? He hasn't really said anything. There's so many issues, that comes up in our national lives that Atiku also like really speaks directly. Don't get me wrong, right? They actually do release press statements on these issues through his media office, but he, as a presidential candidate himself, doesn't really say all these things. In fact, Shay, you will see him first before you. So yes, so Henry Shield, but I don't disagree with Henry Shield on that at all. Then he also talked about Peter Obi, that Peter Obi is gentleman, he doesn't want to fight, he doesn't want to play rough, he likes things being done in a certain way and would not, you know, roll in the mud to get to win. He will not roll in the mud just because he wants to get an edge, right? And again, he's not wrong. Peter Obi, for instance, if you call the protest, is not the like it will most likely even discourage you from protesting. Number one, it would most likely discourage. I remember during the end bad governance protest, his body wasn't really for it. In fact, during the time, there was a lot of calls for him to join the protest and be at the forefront of fighting alongside Nigerians. But the only thing he sort of mentioned at the time was, oh, protest is the right of people. In fact, even the actual substantial issues of the time, he didn't really speak about it. It was just more of let people protest if they want to. They are free, it's their right, and which again is not necessarily bad by the way. But
An issue of protest within the Nigerian constitution, protest is allowed. All I plead for those who are protesting is to do so within the law and in a civil manner.
some Nigerians felt he could have, really been part of that and sort of supported the move, which obviously eventually sort of backfired a little bit, but we'll get there. Right. So basically that's what he said about Obi, and he then went on to talk about the sort of individuals that the opposition needs, like El Rufai, Adams Oshiomhole, and a few other people who he believes that would look the president in the face and speak regardless of what the consequences might be. Obviously, El-Rufai is currently suffering one of those consequences when he mentioned the whole wiretapping issue, right? So that's one. And we remember that when El-Rufai was actually in the fray, the opposition actually had a lot of fire in them. That's the truth. But the moment it was picked up, in fact, it actually shows, it sort of puts credence to what Henry Shield just talked about, because the arrest of Nasir Rufai up until now, after several bails being granted but still being held in custody, is a direct indictment on opposition leaders and their followers, honestly. But how do we actually balance this thing? Because at the end of the day, right, the question is, okay, so what should opposition have done? What do you want them to do instead? What should they have done instead? And for somebody like Henry Shield, I've actually heard him speak a lot on these issues, and he actually believes that opposition should have shut down this country. They should have come out, protested, called their supporters, everybody fall out until things are actually properly done. And I actually also believe in that. I actually strongly agree with it, because at the end of the day, right, um protest is not fight. Protest is not destruction. I don't know why people always attach, oh, when they hear protest, they will next thing, they will come and cause trouble. They will, no. Protest is simply going out there, marching out, and asking for things to be done right. Now, there are so many instances where I actually believe that the opposition leaders have failed, and this video is actually me trying to justify the 5 score that Eric Shield gave the opposition leaders. To be honest, I think he's been generous, but I mean, it's not as if they've not done anything. So to be fair, Maybe that 5 is okay, right? So first things first, at the onset of this government was the removal of subsidy. Now, obviously, right, a lot of the, in fact, both Obi and Atiku actually did say that they are going to remove subsidy. Quite all right. But the problem here, and where I feel like the opposition actually failed, it's in its implementation, because it goes, and that's why sometimes I think, I did a video earlier about, opposition leaders, or leaders speaking to how they would do things. This is very important, because it is because they didn't necessarily really go into how they would solve the subsidy problem, right? That is why this government, every time you ask them or you criticize them on subsidy removal, they'll be like, well, shey these other guys also said they will remove subsidy. But it goes beyond that. Announcement and policy direction is just words. The cocoa in policy is the implementation, is implementation of these policies. I can say that, oh, I want to rural electrification. But if I don't actually have a proper plan to it, yes, I've made that pronouncement, but where is the rural electrification? You get my point. So Tinubu, obviously, on the, like, he had not even entered his office. He had not seen the chair he's going to sit on. But he had already made such a very, very big pronouncement, which obviously affected everybody at the end of the day. Fuel prices rose, transportation prices rose. Like, there were a lot of, everything was just going up. And opposition leaders did not even fight for Nigerians at all. They didn't do anything. Like, nothing. And it went on like that. This government actually also still said, okay, we are going to help suffering people, to help Nigerians. We'll do CNG. Like, guys, do you know where that CNG plan is till today? How many cars have you seen that actually is still sustaining the conversion they did? Or how many cars in ratio of the petrol and CNG? Like, do you know the disparity? We completely messed up that policy as well. And the opposition just went idle. They are so idle. So yes, in terms of actually influencing the ruling party to implement the subsidy removal the way you would have done it, I feel like it's something that the opposition leaders actually failed at doing. Just so that I don't make this video too long, right, I'm just going to quickly breeze through some of the other issues, right? Remember that as soon as Tinubu came in, there was the national anthem change, right? National anthem went through the National Assembly in like at record pace. Record pace. And these opposition guys sat there and did nothing. Right in front of our faces, the national anthem was changed to Tinubu's, nostalgic anthem. I've actually seen one of his old videos where he was sort of reminiscing of the old anthem, that, oh, the anthem was so nice. And I was not, after I saw that video, I just like, okay, I see the reason. I see the reason. But this is actually a serious matter. The national anthem is a very, very serious anthem. You don't joke with it. It's almost like a national identity. This is what brings everybody together. And for it to be changed in such a manner, no recourse to the public. The public did not say, oh, we love it. There was no debate. There was actually nothing. The guy just woke up, let's change this anthem, and it happened. And the opposition leaders went, like, they were just so quiet, right? Tinubu, one by one, started converting governors to his side. Obviously, politics is dicey, right? And sometimes you find, obviously, right, politics is dicey. So sometimes you find people moving around, us trading, doing different deals and all of that, right? Which is fine. But there've been allegations that there's been serious arm twisting of the opposition governors, which then resulted to them obviously decamping to the ruling party. But whether this is true or not, unless it is not true, unless it has no basis, maybe that's why they did not speak. But the rumor is flying out there. And if it is actually true that there is actually some coercion to the defection these governors did, then opposition leaders also failed them. Let's talk about the political parties. PDP, in literally in the face of Atiku, crumbled, became so immersed in internal crisis. They've gone to the Supreme Court twice now. In fact, as we speak, Jonathan is the presidential candidate of one faction, and Sunday Ono, I've forgotten his name. I think that's the name. I may be wrong. Is the presidential candidate of Wike's faction. Till today, the Labour Party, under the like literally under the nose of Obi, also got dismantled. And every time you hear these guys talk, oh, the ruling party is scattering us. That's just it. There's nothing else. They don't say anything else. They don't actually fight to get this thing done properly. Now, obviously, you guys may think I'm being harsh. Oh, what do you want us to do? What do you want them to do? What do you want? Okay, so how long will you continue to adjust to the oppression of the ruling party? So at every single time they come at you and poke you, you just have to retreat. Is that it? Is that the strategy? Retreat. So I don't understand. But another point of the failure of the opposition is actually also, if you remember, the Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway, right? Now, obviously, a lot of people believe that that project is not essentially bad. It's not necessarily bad. It's just priorities. Like, this is not what we should be doing right now, right? The opposition leaders actually believe that. Obi released I made a video, just the last video I did actually, about tweeting about the coastal highway and the fact that we ought to sort of prioritize existing roads. But that's just about it. That's the extent they do. Bring out tweets, make statements, no follow-ups. That's really what they do. And this is why Nigeria is the way. Because what happened after making that statement? Tinubu still went ahead to do what he was advised against. And after that, there was also questions about the procurement, how the deal was procured. Was there any sort of due process that was followed? Was the procurement laws followed? Was there competitive bidding? None of these questions were asked by the ruling party. And if it was asked, they didn't follow up with it. They didn't keep the pressure. They didn't actually stick on those issues. They talk and move on. They talk and move on. Well, at least we've talked. That's really what they do. Which is always very sad, to be honest. Right? There's so many issues. For instance, with respect to this Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway, right? Atiku came up with a statement at the time. I think he also talked about conflict of interest. How Sheyi Tinubu was a board member of one of the companies within the iTech group, right? The Shagori group. But again, that did not stop. Project is currently ongoing as we speak. So it's just talk. It's just like no action, nothing, no bone. There's also the River State. You see, the River State is one that is even worse because it's an opposition governor, right? It's an opposition. The fight is to an opposition. They are suspending an opposition on a flimsy excuse for 6 months. The constitution was turned upside down for 6 months, and the opposition leaders did not do anything. I remember the day that this particular pronouncement was made, and they needed the National Assembly to make it, to stamp it. Peter Obi, on the same day, made a statement that, you know what, to the LP members, that is in the National Assembly, remember, I've not disturbed you all this while, I've not asked anything from you, but this time around you must stand up for justice, you must do things right, you must I'm sure before before that statement got to the National Assembly, they had already passed it. It was too late. So, there's this question mark about the leadership qualities of these opposition leaders. Not necessarily because they have not in their respective, lives led people. It's not as if they've not led people. It's not like, oh, they've not held public office. They have. They've done all these things. This is a two-time governor. This is a one-time vice presidential, vice president. So why is there, so like, are they comfortable being in power, not necessarily opposition? Is that the reason? Is it that they don't have ideas of how to be an opposition? The INEC chairman was appointed, right? None of these guys actually said anything. The opposition did not say anything about the INEC chairman's appointment. So the opposition actually at the time not necessarily praised Tinubu, but they said, oh, we are going to be watching. No due diligence, nothing. Months later, they said, oh, INEC chairman is compromised, he must resign, he must be sacked. That was 5 months ago. Till today, INEC chairman is still there. These guys have no spine. No spine. There's so many, even this current FIPC scandal that is going on. This Prince Adeyemi issue that is going on. What have you heard? What exactly have you heard from both guys or the parties? Everywhere is just quiet. Everywhere is just quiet. There's no opera, and it is the opposition that has to bring this information to the people. So if the people are not informed properly or cannot properly direct their anger towards the ruling party, it is because the opposition has failed at its job. We are literally 6 months to the election, right? And it doesn't look like, Tinubu is shaking. It doesn't look like Nigerians are actually unhappy about the government, which we know they are, right? So it's a very, very big issue. And I don't know how they are going to recover from this with just 6 months or 5 months to the election. The cost of living is high. Nigerians are suffering, but it doesn't look like there's anybody out there ready to save them. And this is very unfortunate. And I guess this is what Henry Shield also, saw or has seen that has made him come up with this figure 5/100 for opposition in Nigeria. 5/100. That is a very poor score. You can't. This is not the kind of score you will get and they say repeat. This one, they will send you out of school. This is crazy. So guys, I don't know. This video has run on for too long. I apologize, if you feel like, oh, this has gone too long. But if you're still here and you like and you don't mind, thank you very much. I appreciate. But yeah, we'll just stop it here. I really, really do feel, the opposition members and the leaders need to, you know, come correct in this next election. Honestly, they need to come correct. If the leaders are being like a Daisika, I don't think supporters will follow. Because why should I be more passionate for you to come to office and you are not than you? You are the one that will be president, right? And nobody is doing anybody a favor. You are not doing us a favor by being opposition leaders. If you don't do it, somebody else will be there. So please, let's be guided this election year, right? Opposition leaders need to sit up. They need to start actually putting the government on their toes. Let the government know that they are not doing anything, so that supporters and followers as well as other Nigerians can actually see the government for what it truly is. I've said enough. Thank you guys for joining See you on the next one. If you made it this far, please like, share, and subscribe. Obviously, it means that you like what you're listening to. Yeah, yeah. So please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate the support. We'll keep growing the page and hopefully reach more people. But that is obviously going to happen only if you like, share, and subscribe. So like, share, and subscribe. So yeah, thank you guys. See you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.